Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 689 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, July 10th, 2025, and it looks like it is a gorgeous day at the Beaver Lodge, as you can see from the sun coming up through the window here, reflecting on my face. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Hopefully he'll be joining us a little later during the show, but right now, it's just you and I. So we will definitely have a wonderful time together. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. We've got a show that I'm going to enjoy today because we're going to have a little bit of Piepenfreude for you, a little Schadenfreude, because things are not going very well for Mr. Pierre Poilièvre, and which means that we get to revel in our delight at this news today. So it's going to be a good news show. Well, at least for those of us who don't much care for Mr. Poilièvre. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? Mine is doing spectacularly well, dressed in bright yellow, of course. So that probably reflects my mood. Got good hair going on. Before the show, however, a little behind the scenes stuff, as the credits were rolling, I realized that I had forgotten to bring my dose of beaver moistener with me. So I was made a mad sprint to the kitchen to make sure that my cup was full, and I brought it back, and was hoping I would get back in time before the credits ended, and I did. Thank you very much. Would not have been able to do that about 3-4 weeks ago when I had to absolutely use the twins to get around. But now that I can weight bear a little bit, I was able to uh, uh, I have a couple of extra gears now. Let's just put it that way. So I was able to put them to good use to be able to make sure that there is no case of dry beaver during the show, and that I was there once the credits stopped rolling, so you weren't just looking at a screen going, okay, what's going on? Tell you, every day is an adventure here at the Beaver Lodge of some kind. All right, kids and cubs. Well, since I've got you, let's look through the magic camera and see which kids and cubs have joined us today. Good morning to you, Kit Uncover, Kit Lori Sue. Hello. Hope things are going well where you are. Kit Hyper T007, hello, my friend. A local here near the Beaver Lodge. It's nice to say hi to you on the show as well as it was in person. Hope we get some time to actually bump into each other again at some point and actually have a longer conversation because I know when we met, well, I was with my partner and you were with yours and your kids, and yeah, things were very busy because we were at a big science show, actually. That was a nice initiative and was a lot of fun. So hopefully we do get a chance to say more than just basic pleasantries and actually have a chance to have a chat at some point. That would be really nice. We have Kit Saucy. I hope Mama's doing well. Hope baby's doing well. Hope the whole family is doing well. Are you home yet? By the way, uh, did they discharge you yet? Uh, I haven't heard whether or not. I didn't see in the chat whether or not you're home for good now. Hopefully, Oberon is doing very well. Sending love to everyone. Kit Linda, the original and the best. Hello, my dear. Linda M, I should say specifically. And let's see, we have Kit Elaine. Hey, hello, dear one. Nice to see you. Thank you for all the lovely recipes. We have a Kit G. Easton, which is a relatively new name for us here on the chat. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge. I'm so glad that you found us. Pull up a log, stay for a while. And who else do we have here? I think that is, oh, Kit Cassie. Hello, good morning. So nice to see you. Say hello to everyone for me. Please give them big hugs. It's so nice to have you in the chat for the mornings. I know we only don't have you the whole full time, at least until September, but it's nice to see you. When I see your face in the chat, it always brings a smile to mine. So I'm glad that you're here. We have a Kit Tim McCaffrey sliding in here at the last second for a good morning hello. Thank you, everyone. And I'm sure that there are more kits and cubs that will be joining us here over the course of the morning as we get through things. Um, well, since we have some good news, why not let's get right into it, right? Let's just soak in this lovely bubble bath that we have. Um, I am going to start with someone that we particularly usually do not like hearing from, kits and cups, but to every rule, there is an exception, and today would be one. As you know, kits and cubs, Pierre Poilièvre right now is in a race in Battle River Crowfoot in order to regain a seat in the House of Commons because during the last federal election, he was fanjoyed, much to our joy. Hee hee. He wasn't doing the work of representing his constituents very well in Carleton because basically for about 2 years and a half prior to the election, he had decided that he was running for prime minister, which is not a thing in Canada, but he decided that he was doing that full time and pretty much abandoned the residents of Carleton, abandoned his constituents, and he basically also abandoned the job of being the leader of the opposition for all intents and purposes because really he was just fundraising. And whenever he was in the House of Commons was merely a backdrop for the latest video clip or meme that he would use to circulate again to fundraise and try to boost his own public profile. And he cared pretty much all about that. He never really featured members of the team. He wasn't very big on policy. Later on, he had like some planks of policy, concepts of policy, if you will, that he keeps on bragging that the liberals are stealing. But very arrogantly, the party, and we saw that with Melissa Lansman in particular, were telling us, well, you need to wait till the election to see what it is that we're going to do to you. I mean, for you. I mean, to you. Um, and it wasn't very impressive, but it was throwing a lot of red meat to a base and to a population that had grown tired of Prime Minister Trudeau, who had become a very easy scapegoat. And basically, Pierre ran his election, thought for sure he had it in the bag, had a 27-point lead at one point, and somehow managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. He blew it. He just blew it big time. And then his next move was not to step aside, as Jagmeet Singh did when he himself blew it, and as parties leaders usually do, but to stick around. And the way that he's describing it now, it's more like it wasn't a loss. It wasn't a loss. No, no. It was just a delay, a mere speed bump, if you will, on the way to becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada. And there's been some talk uh, from his biggest supporters in the party similar to that. I didn't lose. It's just a speak. No, you lost because if you hadn't lost, your butt would be in a seat in the House, not at the current moment because the House has risen for the summer. But you know what I mean. Uh, that didn't happen for him. And then he just decided, hey, I am the leader of a party that we must admit did well in the election, got greater than 8 million votes, increased its seat total, all the stuff that Pierre talks about when he walks around flashing his shiny silver medal while saying, still pretending somehow he won gold. And then he filmed a video at a farm allegedly belonging to Mr. Damien Carrick, who was the elected MP for Battle River Crowfoot. And in that video, talked about growing and learning and changing. But since then, we haven't seen much of that growing and learning and changing at all, neither from him or members from his party. It seems to be just same old, same old. I was on the right track. We won the debate, but we just didn't win the election. So if we keep on having the same debate, well, eventually we will win the election. And that seems to be the extent of the depth of thinking that has taken place here, because there has been no growth, there has been no change. It really is same old. And that time spent in the field up until the time that the by election was actually called was about the only time this man spent in Battle River Crowfoot, despite the fact that there is an interim leader of the party now. Admittedly, the interim leader of the party is completely uninspiring. Andrew Scheer, also rejected, also didn't take the hint to leave. Um, but yeah, right? He's got someone to do the job, but Pierre doesn't seem to trust him to do the job because Pierre decided that he was going to stay in Ottawa. And then somewhere along the way, he was standing in front of Parliament and doing all these videos before Parliament was in session and trying to turn those into little rallies. And well, that wasn't really working for him. And then while the House was in session, rather than being in Battle River Crowfoot, he kept on having little press scrums inside Parliament, always accompanied by one, often two babysitters, because he wasn't allowed to be able to be there without a guardian or someone who was entitled to be there to do that, but still not in Battle River Crowfoot, knocking on doors, doing the hard work of gaining the trust of the residents of that riding that he claims to want to represent. So it all smacked of arrogance and entitlement. I'm the leader of the party. Therefore, I deserve a seat and I'm entitled to one. And Prime Minister Mark Carney, to the dismay of some, turned around and said, well, I'm not going to play any games. If you can arrange to have a seat to run in, I'm going to call a by election. And as soon as possible. And, Prime Minister, for all intents and purposes, was of his word. And we have a by election going on right now in Battle River Crowfoot. Election date will be August 18th. For those of you who live in the riding, however, you can vote early at any returning office. I believe that's already possible now. I will try to take a look during the show if there are actually some early voting dates that have actually been announced yet. Might be a little early for that, but you never know. Election Canada runs a pretty tight ship, so they know that they have to plan this and may have already had it planned before the writ was officially drawn. However, um, how would you put it? It would seem that his campaign isn't going particularly well. You get some little elements of it, hints of it, that we've gotten over the course of the past little while. We've seen a lot of pictures of him now in Alberta, but always campaigning, if he is in Battle River Crowfoot, with Damien Kirk at his side, with Damien Kirk opening doors for him, it would seem. And then we've seen a lot of pictures of him talking to people from a great distance. He doesn't seem to be too keen on taking media questions, uh, which is a typical thing from him. He doesn't. He seems to be showing up at larger events, or things like parades or stuff like that, where people come to him to see him rather than him going to people to see them. As I mentioned on the show, it has a little bit of a "Mm, it's so nice for you to have me here" vibe to it. Uh, heard some rumbling on the ground, right? But nothing so big that would get national media attention, right? And nothing so big and so concentrated in that uh, those who are really, really loyal to him would not be first rushing out in front of a camera and a microphone to say, "Oh, no, no, he's got this in the bag. He's got in this bag. He's still our leader," and all that kind of stuff, right? Because time has a way of doing things. When you layer to that, there's been some polling results that show that Canadians, for the moment, seem to be quite happy with Prime Minister Mark Carney and the job that he is doing. That doesn't help. And then we've seen spreads in polling with regard to the parties. Just the other day, there was a new poll that came out. I think it was yesterday, if I am not mistaken. At least yesterday was the first time I saw it. But a polling company called Research Company, which has an A minus rating with 338, so fairly reliable pollster, and they were indicating a liberal lead of 10%. So they become, I believe, the fourth company now that are showing a large lead. Ecos came out on June 1st with Liberals showing a 12% lead, and then Nanos, a couple days later on June 6th, came up with one showing a 10-point lead, then went up to 12, then 14 at the moment. And then Main Street Research came out on June 26th with a poll showing a Liberal lead of 9. And then on July 1st, Research Company had some data that showed Liberals with a 10-point lead. Liberals 47, Conservatives 37, NDP 6, Greens 2, Bloc 6. The only outlier in this one is Abacus data, which throughout the election also was pretty much an outlier, showing a much tighter race all the way through. And Abacus' biggest spread was 3 points in favor of the Liberals on June 4th, and that has shrunk down to 1 point on June 29th. So Abacus is showing that things are still close, but every other polling company is showing a Liberal lead of at least 9 points and up to 14. In terms of preferred prime minister on those metrics as well, things have not been going very well for Pierre, with some polling, I believe it was um, from Ecos, if I'm not mistaken, uh, around July 1st, showing that the gap between the prime minister and the leader, well, not even the leader of the opposition, I should say, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, uh, is not. It's not good. Let's see, what is it here? According to Ecos here, 33% of Canadians approve of the Conservative Party leader, while 67% say they disapprove. Prime Minister Mark Carney leads Pierre Poilièvre in net favorability by 70 points. So Pierre is at a negative rating of minus 34, and Prime Minister Carney, I guess, would be at a positive rating of plus 36. So when you do plus 36 to minus 34, that's a 70-point gap there. Um, i- the numbers are not looking good for him, but despite that, still the chorus seem to be singing from the same songbook within the party. No, he's our guy. He has our confidence. Don't worry. All he needs to do is get his seat. And once he gets back in the house, all of that will the gap will close. Right. You have to be a believer. And, let's be honest again, partisan politics, right? You cheer for your team, you put on your jersey, you wave your little flag, and you express support for the leader. Even if things don't look good, you express support for the leader. You maintain a positive front, uh, and you keep going so long as you truly believe that this person is your guy. And it would seem that one of the things, the undercurrent of this, is that there's so little bench strength and bench depth within the party that really who else in the party has the chance to get them to over 8 million votes and 41% of the vote share, right? There doesn't seem to be anyone there that is able to speak as effectively as he does for what he does do for the audience that likes to eat that up. And there doesn't seem to be um, anyone that has the ability to control the narrative or the media in the way that he does within the party itself. So there's also the issue of a dearth of better alternatives, with regard to the party. So it's easy to then take the attitude that, maybe if we just stick with him, maybe in a couple of years, the shine will wear off Carney and, it'll be our time to strike again. Just have confidence in the leader. He almost got us there. He got us closest than anybody else so far since Harper. So, let's stick with this guy. If we just keep on doing the same things that we've been doing, but we do it louder, harder, with more exclamation points, and maybe all in all caps this time, it'll work. It'll work. That's easy to do in the first month, maybe 2 after an election, but as time goes by, that gets harder. You need something more to add to the material other than, well, we got more seats and we got more votes. We just you just gotta stick. There has to be something else in the window. And at the moment, it really doesn't seem to be like there is much in the window. Now, we've seen other things. For example, during Stampede, um, Pierre at one point had photos with his cowboy hat on backwards. Doesn't necessarily inspire confidence. We saw a picture of him drinking a beer, and it was a Coors Light, American beer. Doesn't particularly inspire confidence. Um, we've seen uh, how would I put it? He's still not really talking policy, and whatever policy he's talking about seems to be a little backward and almost out of time. I mean, he's calling for a repeal of the EV mandate when the whole world is going electric, and vehicles from China, in particular, are showing uh, that they can uh, be relatively good and that people are interested in them. And he keeps on talking about, oh, this can't work in cold weather, but there are EV battery plants in Finland and in Norway. In Norway, there's articles coming out that 97% of car sales last year were EVs, and I believe Norway has winter, right? So he seems to be yesterday's man on a lot of the things that he's talking about. He also has certain problems on his doorstep in that he's running in Battle River Crowfoot in one of the most pro-conservative, but also one of the most Alberta separatism places in the country. However, um, if he wants to be Prime Minister of Canada, he really can't be seen giving a full throated endorsement to the movement. Now, can he? He also has Danielle Smith to deal with, who likes to point a gun to Canada's head and say, I want, I want, I want, I want. And if he's in Alberta, not singing from the same songbook, then he's got a Danny problem on his hands. And as Danielle Smith likes to remind us, I will not be silent. So she's got him on a very short leash. We're starting to see some rhetoric from him that seems to indicate that she is writing portions of his script with regard to wanting to attack everything that's Canada and everything that's environment. He keeps on talking about negotiating with Trump from a position of strength, but keeps on issuing the lists of things on which he's willing eagerly to capitulate. Um, Mixed messages at best, if we're being charitable. Um, Inconsistency and inability to pivot to meet the moment, which was the hallmark from the campaign, would probably be a fairer and more accurate sentiment. So, with all of this going on, how long can the chorus of barking seals actually maintain the front that everything's hunky dory and he's still our leader? He also has a problem in Battle River Crowfoot in that the person who had just won that seat, Mr. Damien Kirk, won the seat with 82.8% of the vote. Pierre has to come somewhere around that mark in this by election, or else people are going to start asking questions, right? I mean, if a backbencher that nobody has heard of, except for people in his riding, for the last 3 elections he won, can snag 82.8%, surely the leader of the party, which usually is a benefit to the residents in the riding in that they can bring a lot of attention, maybe some money into the riding, should be a shoo-in, particularly in conservative heartland where the conservative candidate got 82.8% of the vote. This time they have the party leader. If he doesn't get anywhere near that, there'll be some questions, right? So he's got a lot on his hands and he's got a lot of tests. I can imagine that the poor guy is stressed a lot. Um, but these are realities that he is facing. We also got another hint that he's aware that things are not going very well for him because, as a conservative, when you lose, it's in the party's constitution that you must face a leadership review. And that leadership review was originally scheduled for March, which he's trying to bump up and has successfully bumped up to January. And they're going to be holding it in Calgary, right, where he lived for 25 years early in his life, and still refers to himself as a Calgarian when he's in Calgary. Um, but he's thinking there, leadership review in Alberta, that should be pretty easy. Because Pierre apparently, from interviews that I've listened to, really, 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 pardon me, I had a little bit of a hiccup there, likes a sure thing. And that's why he's there. There's only one riding in all of Canada and somewhere in Saskatchewan that voted more heavily in favor of the Conservative candidate than this one. So, sure thing in Alberta, where he's from, where he can keep on telling everyone he's Albertan, even though he hasn't lived there for at least 2 decades, right? Which is actually interesting because when Mark Carney was running, they were always saying that he was the European guy and, is he from here? And he's actually lived in Ottawa for since he came back from the Bank of England the last 6 years, right? But Pierre has not lived in Alberta for quite a while. Doesn't seem to be making any moves to take up residence in Alberta either during this campaign. So, which begs the question, right? Will he really be a voice for Battle River Crowfoot, or will he just, thanks for the seat and then just go back to Ottawa and start running for prime minister again for the next 2 years or 4 years, depending how long Prime Minister Carney's mandate lasts in a minority government? But that he moved up the leadership race gives an impression that he is panicked. He's hoping that he comes in September, you know, makes a big media blitz from September till December when the House is operating, gets all those clips. We get to see more of him, we get to hear more of him, and that he's going to go up in the esteem of people. And then by the time January comes along, all the buzz that he managed to generate for himself by using the House of Commons as a backdrop and doing his video memes again will make people fall in love with him again. And that will secure his leadership uh, bid, his leadership review in January. You can see the plan strategically, what it is that he's trying to do. You can see how he's trying to make it as sure thing as possible for himself. Um, but between now and January, that's a long time. Between now and August 18th is a decent amount of time. And between, if he doesn't get anywhere near 82.8%, this between August 18th and when the House is going to resume at some time in September, that's also a long time without the backdrop of the House for lots of press stories wondering, well, gee, he only got 60 something, or only got 70 something. Is this time over? And a bit like we saw with Justin Trudeau, once that drumbeat starts happening in the press, it has a way of feeding itself. It has a ability to self-amplify. Because all it takes is one or two people from the inside to start saying it out loud, for other people to point at it, start quoting it. Then all of a sudden, the loop starts. And that type of negative loop, as we saw with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is very hard to get rid of and get out of, right? I mean, he had a strategy too, right? If I can just hold on, especially when he found out that Trump won again, if I can just hold on long enough, they'll see Trump coming up, version 2, unhinged, no longer having to temper his worst instincts because there is no third term, allegedly. We have to wait to see with Trump, but there is no third term. And if he doesn't want to be his whole second run at being president to be an entire lame duck thing, right? He's going to have to go big. And the contrast between Trump and Trudeau is what Trudeau thought would allow him to gain again in the esteem of Canadians until the election, which was supposed to happen this October. And Trudeau probably wasn't wrong in that estimation. I mean, we see what Trump is doing. I'm sure if we saw Trudeau next to Trump and Trudeau standing up to Trump and using his the magic that he used the first time in terms of getting around him, and because remember that moment with the handshake when Trump was doing that handshake and pulling everyone, and then Prime Minister Trudeau went and then did the handshake and put his hand on Trump's the top of his arm there to prevent that, and everybody got, "Oh my God, such genius!" There would have been more moments like that because Trudeau was very good on EQ, and Trump is devoid of any EQ, right? You could see the strategy, you could see the potential for it to work, but he ran out of runway. There was too much time, and the negative story had set and had gelled, and there's no way for him to get out of it. Pierre has the same risk or opportunity for failure in that sense in front of him, given the timelines. So, this particular clip I find interesting. I know there's a long lead into it because it comes from one of the nation's most prolific conservative butt Frenchers. I mean, this guy loves doing the job. This guy lives to do the job. of kissing conservative butt. And he had a 3 minute and 42-second clip come out about 16 hours ago, according to YouTube, titled The Trouble Facing Poilièvre. So, kits and cubs, even though we typically don't give him a lot of time on this show, today, exceptionally, for your enjoyment, and I say this unironically, for your enjoyment, I present Mr. Brian Lilley. I know. Don't get up. Stay in your seats. Trust me, this is worth it. Your queen would never lead you wrong.
Is facing problems within his own party. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. Spent last week in Western Canada, Saskatoon and Calgary. Time at Stampede. Heard from plenty of people upset at Pierre Poilièvre. It's not the Doug Ford conservatives from Ontario. It's not left-leaning conservatives. It's not establishment media. These are rock-rigged conservatives who are saying, look, there's a problem. And the leader either has to change his ways or he has to be changed. That's the reality of the situation and how some people see it. Now, I'm reporting on this, and I'm not saying it's fatal to Poilièvre. I'm not saying he has to go. Not advocating for any of that, but there's an awful lot of conservatives reacting to this with a true and unlike gaze that say any criticism of their dear leader must come from a liberal place. No, that's not the case. Look, the conservatives were ahead for a year and a half, 2 years. They lost the election. There's going to be people who are upset. And what I'm hearing now is very different than what I heard in the days and weeks immediately after the election. Things have changed. Back then, people were saying, okay, well, we improved, but yeah, we lost, but we improved. And so they were willing to give Poilièvre the benefit of the doubt. Now, weeks later, that is starting to fade and the grumbling is becoming louder. That means that Poilièvre has to do something about it. He is the leader. And if he wants to remain as leader, then he's got to address these issues. He's got to talk to people. I spoke to Poilièvre on Tuesday, as I noted in my column for the Toronto Sun, and he said that he is out there speaking to the grassroots. He's speaking to local campaign managers. He is speaking to members of EDA boards. He's speaking to candidates who lost, people who are in his caucus as MPs, and trying to get their sense of what happened and what they can do to improve. He did also mention that he's in the awkward position of not knowing who the real Mark Carney is. You know, Carney spent 20 years pushing a radical environmental agenda. Now he's getting rid of the carbon tax, talking about building pipelines. Poilièvre compared it to the real Slim Shady, the Eminem song. Will the real Slim Shady or the real Mark Carney please stand up? It's a valid point, but he's at the disadvantage right now. Carney is being given the benefit of the doubt by, well, voters and premiers like Danielle Smith and Scott Moe who need their projects to be approved. And until Carney doesn't deliver, they're saying that they're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's where an awful lot of voters are. And the voters that Pierre Poilièvre needs to win over aren't the hardcore conservative voters who backed him. It's the swing voters who went to Carney last time. You can't just sit there and say, I will, just be in my own little corner and I will not worry about anything else. That's not how you win an election. Politics is about addition, not subtraction. So if you're going to be upset that someone like me is saying Pierre Poilièvre has problems within his own party, then you might actually be part of the problem and not the solution. If you want Poilièvre to win, then you have to be hopeful that he is going to listen to the criticisms that are coming from within his own tribe and encourage him to make changes to improve in the next election. Yeah, he did great in terms of the popular vote, didn't win enough seats. And that, in the end, is what counts. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right. Kids and cubs, you will notice first, and I couldn't help but notice that Brian Lilley spent a lot of that trying to insulate himself from the comments that would come. You'll notice that right off the bat, right? He was saying stuff like, if there's any criticism from Pierre, you must think that it's coming from a liberal place. No, no, not at all. Another saying like, don't start calling me a liberal now because I'm saying these things that I've heard about Pierre. Uh, don't, don't. But yeah, uh, Lilley is aware. Lilley's aware, and you can see some of these things in the comments. I mean, they're not going after Lilley, but Pierre, who is a good man, is being attacked. Carney, who is evil, is the one being given the benefit of the doubt. What an injustice. Our election loss is not on Pierre Poilièvre. He could have done some things differently, but I don't believe that the Conservatives could have won without sacrificing their conservative principles. In other words, they didn't have the stuff. Right? Man. Jeez. I am an Albertan and I fully support Pierre. Tired of all this backstabbing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was like being told the truth about you, your guy, that on the ground, it's not going well for him. Is not probably won't sit well with like the most loyal of the base. So Brian Lilley definitely trying to insulate himself there. But again, really, this is the first time I've heard Brian Lilley question in any way whether or not Pierre should remain. And it's not so much that Brian is not even framing it himself as I'm questioning, but you notice at the end there he's making some suggestions. There needs to be something different like this without him saying, I'm saying there needs to be something different. But telling the people who are listening, hey, if you're not willing to look at your own guy and even say, like, hey, maybe there is some room for improvement there, you might be part of the problem. Brian Lilley is taking a step away from Pierre Poilièvre. Or, if you want to be charitable, is offering some friendly and helpful advice if he wants to stay on. Exactly, Kid Crystal. He knows how quickly they eat their own, and he does not want to be lunch. And Kid Linda M. Exactly. It's kind of a subtle backstabbing when you know Lilley's connection to Ford. And we know that Ford really, 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 really drink really, 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 really wants Pierre's job. And Corey Tenike doesn't really have much love for Pierre. And Corey Tenike is Doug's communications guru. Interesting. But it didn't stop with Brian Lilley. Oh, no. Wait, there's more. Because another noted liberal hack, I hope you can hear the sarcasm dripping from my voice here. Famous liberal hack, Mr. John Ivison. Yes, that jive on John Ivison. National Post John Ivison can't get his lips too conservative but fast enough to press on his Substack. Quote, is Pierre Poilièvre poised to be the comeback kid or yesterday's pancake breakfast? Ooh, considering all the joy that Pierre seemed to get out of making those pancake jokes at that lunchtime event at the Calgary Stampede, at which 1,200 people allegedly came to see him, which, of course, at Stampede, it must be relatively easy in Alberta for a conservative to get 1,002 people to come to see him. So, I mean, how much of a feat that actually is. But I've heard in the press it being described as a how would you put it? A sort of a large emotional support group. rather than a rally stop or whatnot, for him to say, I did well, right? Y'all still love me, right? Type thing. And again, that speech was, a lot of same old, same old. Not much new there in terms of attitude, tone, policy, whatnot. It seemed to be a couple of things updated because, we are past the election, but um, pretty much the same routine, song and dance, the same shtick that got him to second place the first time, even though it was with more votes and more seats, but still second place because, as Brian Lilley said, it's about the seats. The thing that the Poilièvre camp refuses to acknowledge publicly is that, yes, you did drive up your own vote to the best result you got since Harper. Absolutely. No doubt about that. But you also drove the party you were trying to defeat's vote up. You made it the party receiving the highest number of votes ever in Canadian history. You almost talked and memed and videoed yourself into the party you were trying to beat having majority. Like literally just 3 seats away. It doesn't matter how many extra seats you get. You drove up the party you were trying to defeat's vote. And you did it in record time, too. So, John Ivison, interestingly, has this to say, and again, kits and cubs, I must confess, I absolutely must confess, and again, this might be petty me, but it's going to be a pleasure to read this to you today. So please grab your favorite beverage and sit back for story time with Mr. Beaver. Is Pierre Poilièvre poised to be the comeback kid or yesterday's pancake breakfast? Chad on the Stampede barbecue circuit among conservatives is ominous for the leader's fortunes. By John Ivison, July 6th, 2025. I feel like I should have like one of those little bells in the children's book to tell you to turn the page. Pierre Poilièvre's progress through downtown Calgary in last year's Stampede Parade was like a Roman triumph, celebrating a victorious general's return to the heart of the empire. The crowd yahooed him with enthusiasm as he rode on horseback through packed streets, waving his cowboy hat in acknowledgement, probably without little sheriff's badge that time. Sorry, I couldn't resist. The Conservative leader was 15 points ahead of Justin Trudeau in polls that asked Canadians who they preferred as Prime Minister. 8 out of 10 voters said they wanted change in Ottawa, and there was a sense of inevitability about Pierre's journey across the aisle to the government side of the House of Commons. A year later, he is 30 points behind Mark Carney in the latest Nanos research poll on the question of preferred Prime Minister, and he cut a rather hapless figure in his Sears parade, all but ignored by the large crowds. Ouch. Last year, there was a buzz of anticipation as he and his wife, Anida, hove into view. This year, he'd passed me before I noticed him. John, is that shade? Because I am rather familiar with shade, and that smells like shade. There's not much room for sentiment in politics anymore, a debasement for which Poilièvre is more responsible than most. At the moment, he is leader in name only. Ouch. At least until he wins a seat in the House in Battle River Crowfoot by-election in August. He could yet prove to be the ultimate comeback kid. Quote, "We don't back down and we don't run away when things get hard. We dust ourselves and get back in the saddle," he told a packed crowd at a barbecue at Heritage Park. He received 2 standing ovations, but that is a low bar for a Conservative leader in Calgary. Ooh! The shade of it all. Ooh. His supporters point out that he added 25 seats to the Conservative caucus and took support for the party over 40% in April's election. But more recent polls suggest 10 points of that support has already melted away, and that his personal numbers are at the lowest ebb since he became leader. Is it possible Canadians have tired of Poilievre's hyper-partisan shtick? Again, ouch. Many people I spoke to in Calgary referred to him like yesterday's pancake breakfast. Okay, I'm just going to say it here. Kitty's got claws. John Ivison is slicing and dicing like he's a human Ginsu here. Poilievre faces a leadership review in January in Calgary, and the chat on the Stampede barbecue circuit is ominous. Ooh. MPs say privately they are resisting efforts to draw them closer into the leader's orbit. Outgoing staff say that while Jenny Byrne is being blamed for an election strategy that snatched a defeat from the jaws of victory, the real architect was Poilievre himself, who micromanaged every aspect of the campaign. Because everyone loves to work for a micromanager who loses. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm so sorry. One former employee said Conservatives are openly laughing at efforts by Chief of Staff Ian Todd to restaff the opposition leader's office. Some of Poilievre's closest supporters don't sound convinced the leader will make it through January's review. You know things are going well, kits and cubs, when you are trying to staff your office and people are saying, well, I'm not sure whether or not I have time to do that right now. I'm kind of busy washing my hair. Oh, next month, conditioning it. Oh, the month after, oh, that's the cream rinse. Let's see how things go for a while first, and maybe I'll want to do that. But right now, I'm just very, 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 very busy. So very busy. I should not be delighting so much on this, but he has it coming. On Saturday night, the leader offered his barbecue audience a boilerplate campaign speech, claiming that Carney, quote, couldn't figure out whether his elbows were up or down when it came to dealing with the US President Donald Trump on digital service tax on American tech giants. But that invites the comparison between Poilievre and Carney, which does not work out to the conservative leader's advantage. I have spoken with a number of ardent conservatives in Calgary this week, and most have been grudging in their respect for the job the new prime minister is doing. Not one suggested they'd prefer Poilievre to be sitting on the other side of the table from Trump. Ooh, I don't think that person exists in Canada right now. Oh, ow. Damn him with faint praise. Ouch. I'm not even sure that's even I can even consider it faint praise. But basically saying, well, I don't think that person exists in Canada right now. So it's like, it's not like Poilievre could do the impossible, basically saying. It's like, oh man. John, wow. The shift from antagonism to ambivalence in Alberta is likely to accelerate if Carney follows through on his claim that it is, quote, highly likely an oil pipeline will be on Ottawa's major project list. And there's a note here I want to put to you, kits and cubs, particularly those of you who are those of you who are much more green. When Prime Minister Carney is saying this, let's remember that during that meeting with the First Ministers, he clearly put the ball entirely in Danielle's camp. It's like, well, you need to find the proponent. And there probably won't be any federal dollars behind it. So Danielle, who's currently running a separatism push and has a whole bunch of problems of her own to deal with, is trying to find a proponent for a pipeline that the proponent of the pipeline isn't even guaranteed will be in Canada once it's built. I'm sure that's going to work wonders for her to find that proponent. So right now it costs absolutely Carney nothing to say it's highly likely that an oil pipeline would be on the major project list, because the caveat, the yellow asterisk, is, well, if Danielle is able to control stuff in her own province to actually get a proponent that would like to work on that, that is. And then again, putting it on the list, right, doesn't actually mean that it actually gets completed. I mean, all it does is get put on the list. Yes, it's considered a priority. Yes, the federal government probably won't stand in the way, but Danny still needs to make it happen. And I'm not particularly confident in her abilities these days. She's having enough trouble running her own damn caucus. I have my doubts on her ability to run this type of project. But you never know. She might surprise us. She does seem to be really in the bag for oil and might pull out all the stops, whatever that's going to look like. But anyway, so just putting it out there, the Prime Minister saying that it's highly likely, so long as he's maintaining the positive attitude that, yes, in some realm or dimension or alternative reality, it is possible that we'll have a type of pipeline. That's pretty much all he needs at the moment, for a good long while at least, to insulate himself from any criticism. Right? He's not throwing up more environmental regulations. He's not saying no. He's not, right? He's even announced $21.5 million through Tim Hodgson in carbon capture initiatives in Alberta itself. And, Danielle Smith is all about saying, well, if we can get this Pathways Alliance carbon capture thing, because that will help us decarbonize whatever she means by that, the barrel of oil, right? So, and which makes it more likely that it would happen. So, she's got that grand bargain thing going on in her mind. But all Prime Minister Carney has to do is maintain the illusion that, if you can actually get an oil pipeline and a proponent that would do such things, business in such a way that at least for all activities related to extraction and sale and all that kind of stuff of the oil, that you can capture that part of the carbon of the equation, then, maybe we got something going on. But that's a lot of ifs to get there. So Prime Minister Carney can ride on that for quite a while. So between now and January, there's very small likelihood that a whole bunch of Albertans will become disenchanted with Prime Minister Carney on his position on another pipeline. Just leave it at that. In his barbecue speech at Heritage Park last year, Poilièvre said all the potential replacements for Trudeau, including Carney, were, quote, just like Justin. That is a dog that won't hunt anymore. Carney not only killed Trudeau's carbon tax, he axed the capital gains tax hike that Poilièvre promised to merely review. Is it possible that trade war-induced stagflation could end the Carney honeymoon and revive conservative fortunes? Of course. But it is harder to envisage a circumstance in which Poilièvre is seen as the solution to whatever ails the country. Due to the confluence of events that were beyond his control, he increasingly seems to be a man out of time, an old hat on a new frontier. Ooh, damn. And then some of the comments here. And some of these comments are actually liked by John Ivison here. I think the way things have unfolded, most Canadians, including many card-carrying CPC members, would be happy to just move on from the Trudeau-Poilièvre era. The daily dose of partisan acrimony didn't work. It just upped everyone's stress levels and divided us in an unnecessary way. Let's find a new leader with a new skill set that includes building a broader consensus. John Ivison liked that idea. One thing I noticed in Poilièvre's remarks is that right after his gracious welcome to Carney's first Stampede visit, he immediately reverted to his juvenile, in my opinion, remarks about flip-flopping pancakes and policy reversals. Perhaps another sign he hasn't fully absorbed a new political situation and dynamics. John Ivison liked that one too. He's chipping away at people's mental health. They've had enough of Canada as broken. John Ivison liked that one too. So yeah. And then you've got some other people going, well, yeah, hey, Carney's doing a good job so far, but let's give it another 6 months. So cautiously skeptic, I guess. Man. And then this final one here. Hope you enjoyed and are enjoying your time in Calgary. Interesting observations about Mr. Poilièvre and his popularity inside the party. As an outsider, my observation would be that there was and is an optimism that many of the voters the CPC gained in this past election would stay with the party. So it was a matter of simply getting a few more votes. I feel it's tricky to keep some of those new voters over the course of 3 to 5 years as the world turns. I did see in the Calgary Herald about what the PM said about the very likelihood of a new pipeline being part of the government-supported infrastructure. To me, this, along with the passing of C5, are good news stories for the NDP. So there you go. And John Ivison also liked that comment. So, some perspective from all over. But John Ivison, not a known liberal fan in any way, shape, or form. Very cutting. Subtly bitchy piece about him, which of course speaks to my heart, as you know, kits and cubs. But yeah, very, 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 very interesting takes, because these are calls that are coming from inside the house. And it seems that they are numerous enough that the CPCs bought and paid for pundit class, because Lilley and Ivison are pretty, how would I say, they're in the bag. There is no doubt where they stand whatsoever. No doubt. So for them to be the ones that are reporting back on the calls coming from inside the house, that they're the ones that are taking that step forward, saying, hey, there's a problem here. And us pumping his tires, fluffing him, trying to maintain the illusion with the public that no, everything's fine, everything's great. Just, don't stop believing, and hold on to that feeling, right? And you don't worry, Pierre's got it. That may not be a thing anymore. That's new when it comes to this particular candidate. That's new. Something is changing on the ground. And we need to pay attention to that. Now, it doesn't stop there, because yesterday there was an article that appeared at CBC talking about Pierre's spending. Now, as you know, we've been talking about Pierre's spending a lot as an MP and as leader of the party, the things that get reviewed and get reported on the Our Commons website every quarter. And we've seen that Pierre is very, very, very generous with our money. Well, it would seem that Pierre's spending is also an issue when it comes to party funds. Now, keep on saying it on the show, the Conservatives have more money than God, right? And I truly believe that somebody should be looking into their fundraising activities because I find it hard to believe that they raised that much more money than every other party. There's got to be something that's going on there. But the party definitely raises a lot of money, particularly with election season. Now, thank God in Canada, we do have some caps, but the reason for which Pierre was able to do that whole 2-year tour is because the party was raising money hand over fist. Well, according to Sarah Ritchie of the Canadian Press, the Conservative Party's spending outstripped its record fundraising total in 2024 as it ramped up advertising and internal polling ahead of the federal election. Again, I'll repeat that. The Conservative Party's spending outstripped its record fundraising total. So it had raised more money than it had ever raised before in 2024 and spent more money than it had raised. And he still lost. According to records filed with Elections Canada, the party brought in about $42 million in donations and another $5 million in membership fees last year, with total revenues of just over $48.5 million. The party spent just shy of $50 million over the same period, an increase of nearly $13 million over 2023. So if you thought Pierre was everywhere, because if you couldn't open a computer, if you couldn't look at a TV screen without seeing his face or his mug somewhere, there's a reason for that. They spent a shit ton of money. A large amount of that money went to advertising, with $7.8 million spent on TV, $7.1 million on digital, and $1.5 million on radio. More than $2.5 million went to research and polling. The $16.5 million the Conservatives spent on advertising was nearly double the sum the party spent on ads in 2023. And in Canada, $8.25 million on advertising in a year is a lot to begin with. Like, a hell of a lot. It's already overkill. They doubled that. They spent $2.5 million onto research and polling, internal research and polling. And with all those advantages, Pierre needed a lot of help. A lot of help. He got that shiny silver medal. He's not a naturally good candidate. In September, the Conservatives launched an ad spot featuring most of the messages they'd taken to the election campaign in the spring, including the "Let's Bring It Home" tagline. In the ad's voiceover, Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre pledged to, quote, cap spending, axe taxes, reward work, build homes, uphold families, stop crime, secure borders, rearm our forces, restore our freedom. Pierre told right-wing influencer Jordan Peterson in a December podcast interview that he had done 600 public events over the previous year, including tours of businesses and factories and the rallies that became a signature of his leadership. Imagine if he had only done 300 of those and spent the time of the other 300 in his writing. Or actually being the leader of the opposition rather than candidate for prime minister and chief fundraiser. 600 public events. There ain't even 600 days in a year. He was so busy being everywhere, building that illusion that he was inevitable, that he forgot to do the job, not only of leader of the opposition, but of constituency MP. The most critical job, because you have to remember, in Canada, right, we elect an entire parliament. We have 343. Is it 343 or 342? I can't remember now off the top because I'm so used to 338 as being the number. We have 342 mini elections. All MPs are equal. The Prime Minister just happens to be first among equals. But the number one job is to be constituency MP. He forgot that. The Conservatives logged $1.5 million in spending on travel and hospitality and just over $8 million on fundraising efforts in 2024. They spent $8 million to raise that 50. That's a lot of money. Sarah Fisher, the party's director of communications, said in an email that the Conservatives ended the year with just shy of $16 million in cash and net assets of just over $9 million. So even with all that spending, they have just shy of $16 million in the bank. Parties run full election campaigns on less than that. Said they've got so much money, they don't know what to do with it. As is typical in the pre-wit period in 2024, the party spent slightly more than it raised, said Fisher. The Conservatives were the only party to file annual financial statements with Elections Canada by the deadline. All other parties were granted an extension. Conservative strategist Fred Lilley said, quote, he's never seen anything like the party's fundraising totals and he's not concerned by the level of spending in 2024. Quote, that's what political parties are supposed to do, especially when you are the best fundraising machine in the country, said Lilley, chair of North Star Public Affairs and the Conservatives' 2021 campaign manager. But he said members should expect the party to take a serious look at whether its spending was effective in light of the election result. And perhaps if the party spent a little less time fundraising, because you don't need that much to run an election. I mean, look how much you raised and you still lost. So you can spend as much as the Liberals spent, which we don't have the numbers now, but you can spend as much as the Liberals spent and still win. So maybe the party focus on money for itself is detracting from the party's ability to actually come up with policy that resonates or a strategy that doesn't involve insulting everyone or pissing everybody off. Just saying. By late December, the Conservatives appeared all but certain to form the next government. They had been relentless, that's a good word, in their attacks on the unpopular government of Justin Trudeau and his government's signature climate policy, the consumer carbon price. They were also targeting then NDP leader Jagmeet Singh and his party's decision to prop up the Liberal government. The Conservatives failed to form government in the April 28 election despite gaining seats and getting a larger share of the vote than they had had in recent decades. Poilièvre lost his long-held seat in the Ottawa riding of Carleton. He's now running in an August 18th by-election in a rural Alberta riding. Quote, were the right voters targeted? Did we lean too hard on the anti-Trudeau and the anti-Singh messages instead of making our own case, Lilley said. Yeah, you did. Just saying. Conservative attacks targeting Singh ramped up in the months leading into the election. In January, the party released an ad claiming Singh's party supported the Liberals in order to secure his MP pension. Singh also lost his seat and resigned. The NDP has been reduced to just 7 MPs and no longer has official party status in the House of Commons. Lilley said attacking the NDP leader was a, quote, foolish waste of money. The election shaped up to be a two-party race with many traditional New Democrat voters lending their support to the Liberals. However, the Conservatives also picked up formerly NDP seats. Quote, I think a very thorough postmortem should be conducted on all this stuff. I'm not sure that's happening, Lilley says. Oh, no, Lilley. You're being kind. You know that's not happening. Don't pretend like you're not sure. You know that's not happening because you know the postmortem is being done by Pierre himself, the micromanager. And we all know that when the boss shows up at your desk as an employee and says, tell me how I'm doing as a boss, that you're probably not going to tell him the truth because you got kids to feed or you yourself like to eat and pay your mortgage and would very much like to keep your job, thank you. Lilley is not sure that's happening. Lilley knows that's not happening. A representative of the party's fundraising arm, the Conservative Fund, is required by the party's constitution to provide a financial report to delegates at the party's next national convention in late January. As leader, Poilièvre is also required to report to delegates and hold an accountability session, and he will face a review of his leadership at the convention, which is being held in Calgary. And should polling numbers remain stable or worsen between now and January, I Oh, how I would love to be a fly on the wall at that accountability session. Oh, oh my. Yeah, that would be fun. Especially since, as a Kit pointed out, we know um, how the conservatives love to eat their own. Oh, that would be, I would buy ring seats for that. I would like to be in the splash zone for that. Just saying. Could be a fun time. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Oh man, man, man. All right. But hey, since we are reveling, there is more. Bonnie Critchley, who we had the good fortune of having on our show. And hopefully we will be able to have her back at some point this month. By the way, she is, I think, on the 18th. She'll be recording an interview with our good friend Laura Babcock from the O Show. So please mark that on your calendar and keep your eyes peeled for that, because I'm sure that is going to be fantastic. But hopefully after her appearance on the O Show, we'll be able to have her here for a little bit and check in with how things are going on the campaign trail. However, um, you know how tough it is for an independent candidate to get some traction. And as we mentioned, having that type of problem at the moment, right? We found her and gave her a chance for a platform. I think it might have been her first national interview. What might have been with us, I can't say that for sure, but I think that might be the case. And then we saw that she had a profile in the National Post the other day that was actually decent. Wasn't some type of hit job or smear job or some weird type of article or profile like the National Post often does. It was actually a serious article that actually presented her in a fair way. Uh, we know that she has time coming up with the O Show, but she also was recently in Edmonton in the studios of Real Talk with Ryan Jesperson. And Bonnie is knocking it out of the park. As a communications person, uh, just the difference between her time with us and her time there, she's picking up on the game, on the media game. She knows how to play it. She gives good interview. She gives good face. She gives good interview. In this little clip here, well, I'm just going to present, I'm going to let it speak for itself. But here, Ryan Jesperson, she's in her trademark polo shirt and black cowboy hat. And I'm not going to say it was a softball interview. It wasn't. But, there's a lot of like, let's get to know this person, find out who she is, what makes her tick. Um, so they do get into to stuff, meat and substance in here as well. But this here was the first segment of the interview that really caught my ear and to let me know, oh, yeah, she, whoever is giving her, I don't know if she's just a natural, some people are, or if she is getting some media training from the crew that she has assembled, and it seems to be a particularly effective one. But you can see here that Bonnie knows what time it is, and it definitely knows how to handle herself.
Anything you're hearing, but if we take a look at the most recent election results in Battle River Crowford, I know that you're up to speed on these. Damien Kirk, the independent, who's stepped away, he's resigned to create the opportunity for Pierre Poilièvre to run in this Alberta riding, won 53,684 votes for almost 83% of the share. It was one of the biggest wallopings of any riding in Canada. The next closest candidate, the Liberal candidate Brent Sutton, with about 7,500 votes, about 12% of the vote. Now, your name's not even on the list, so you weren't involved in the election. You're stepping up here in the by-election, but I know that that you've got a real challenge ahead of you. So how are you facing it? How are you approaching this campaign?
Well, absolutely, you're right. I wasn't in the initial one because I was quite content with Mr. Keurig. He stepped up. He's the only one of that entire list of candidates who showed up. He comes around, he talks to people, he interacts with the constituency. Brent Sutton, none of those guys did that. And that is very, very important to my neighbors. What I'm hearing now is that all these folks who voted for Damien are mad. My neighbors are choked. They voted for this guy, and he ran away. He abandoned his duty to them and ran away.
Do you think that they're mad enough to vote against the Conservatives for an independent candidate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The numbers lie. Well, they don't lie, right? That's how many conservative-leaning people are in the constituency of Battle River Crowfoot. But when Damien abandoned his duties, suddenly the party loyalty has disappeared.
Some people might not call it abandoning his duties. Some people might say, listen, the leader of the party needs a seat in the House, and somebody's going to have to step up and fall on their sword. Somebody's going to have to do this for the party. What have you been telling people at the doors, or how have you been characterizing it at the doors?
Well, it's not a matter of how I'm characterizing it. He didn't fall on his sword. He fell on a giant bed of pillows. He sold us out. He's got a brand new cushy job. He sold us out. And I'm not the one who's saying that. It's all of our neighbors who are saying that. This is what I'm hearing door to door to door. Yes, we most certainly have our very, very hardcore conservative fans who are like, no, the leader's going to do everything for us. But for the most part, no. People are choked that Keurig sold us out to the angry guy from Ottawa.
Whoa. Okay. She knows how to play this game. She clearly knows how to play this game. And, that answer is a 10 on 10 for me. Since she brought up Mr. Keurig, there was also more news about Mr. Keurig. And remember, I suggested on the show some time ago, right, that Mr. Keurig, after getting that type of approval, just stepping aside and giving a seat, could be something that indeed would anger people of that riding. You don't win with 82.8% and then decide to just give up your seat and not have a few people in the riding go, what the fuck? Dude, seriously, I voted for you. And would that damage brand loyalty or party loyalty? According to Bonnie Crombie, on the ground, what she's hearing is that it has. Now, of course, if you want to be a little more cynical politically, and hey, I'm definitely not one to say that you shouldn't, because, I am a little bit cynical myself. One could say, well, of course she's going to say that. Of course she's going to say that. But, and I mean, why wouldn't you, right? It's like when Jagmeet Singh, was asked during the campaign, it's like, do you want to merge, or, you're going to step aside or something like, no, so I'm fighting for the votes. Well, of course you have to say that you're fighting for the votes, or I'm fighting to, I want to be prime minister or whatnot. Because when you don't, you just open up a Pandora's box of a whole bunch of other questions, right? Even if it sounds ridiculous. So, but in this case, it could be indeed true. And according to the Calgary Herald here, when Bonnie says he sold us out, and one of the things we also wondered when Damien Keurig gave up his seat is We wondered, what did he get in exchange? What's the quid pro quo here? What are the terms of that deal? And shouldn't they be made public because there's potential for conflict of interest? Well, 5 days ago, published July 4th in the Calgary Herald by Stephen Tipper. After stepping down for Poilièvre to run, PM Damien Currick lands role at government relations lobbying firm. So when she says that he landed himself a cheap little job, she's not lying. Not lying here. So there's Mr. Currick and his black cowboy hat there. And let's find out how well Mr. Currick landed here. The Alberta MP who stepped down to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre to run in his riding has a new job with the government relations and lobbying firm. Damien Currick, who had represented Battle River Crowfoot since 2019, resigned in June after getting re-elected in April to allow Pierre to regain a House of Commons seat in what's regarded as a safe Conservative constituency. Poilièvre lost the Ottawa riding of Carleton to Liberal Bruce Vanjoy in the spring election. On Friday, Upstream Strategy Group announced Currick as its newest principal, calling the former MP a seasoned legislator and tireless advocate for Alberta. And yes, they seemed very excited indeed to welcome him. They even posted this tweet to Currick without cowboy hat on. We are excited to announce the newest member of our team, former parliamentarian Damien Currick. Damien's deep roots in Alberta politics paired with his legislative experience make him the perfect fit to deliver strategic value to our clients in Western Canada. Legislative experience? I mean, he sat in the House of Commons. I haven't gone through his record to see how many bills or laws he's actually sponsored or written or tabled, and the perfect fit to deliver strategic value. I'm not sure what strategic value a backbencher that nobody has heard of, backbencher since 2019, that nobody except for people in his own writing had heard of, will deliver strategic value to Western Canada clients. If they mean, if Pierre wins and becomes the leader of the opposition again, opens the door for the next couple of years to a direct pipeline, but to ass-kissing pipeline, in that case, yes, that would be, I guess, what do they call it again? Strategic value for clients in Western Canada. But other than that, it's not obvious to me what strategic value this man brings from having been a backbencher for 6 years. Quote, "There's no better time than the Calgary Stampede for me to join Upstream Strategy Group," Currick said in a Friday statement. There's plenty of times better than the Calgary. I don't know what it is about the Calgary Stampede that makes that specific. "Just like the greatest outdoor show on earth highlights our Western heritage, I'm looking forward to helping organizations grow and succeed in Western Canada." I'm not sure how those two things are related at all. It's just a way to plug the Stampede into this, but there's no direct link at all. Upstream said Currick brings extensive experience to his new role, pointing to his time as the Conservative Party's Canadian heritage critic in the last Parliament. Yes, because that's the thing that the Conservative Party cares most about, right? Promoting Canadian heritage. Canadian heritage is the department that runs the CBC, or that the CBC falls under. Actually, I shouldn't say run because it's a Crown corporation. So his time at wanting to defund the CBC, okay, as well as his time as the Environment and Sustainable Development Committee Vice Chair. I mean, heritage and environment. The CBC and environment stuff is where you hide the person in Conservatives that you don't want to have any TV time whatsoever. Pierre Poilièvre was the axe the tax guy. There was no way that Damien Kirk was ever going to go on TV for anything environment or sustainable development. And Pierre was the defund the CBC guy. So there's no way. They hid him there. And now they're trying to say that his time in these positions, where they sought to gut what it is that takes place in these departments or in these portfolios, are the things that will provide strategic value. I'm sorry. Oh my God. They are spinning so hard, bless their souls. I see the hamster running in the wheel. That hamster must be tuckered out, man. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. Before he was first elected to the House of Commons, Kirk worked under former Battle River Crowfoot MP Kevin Sorensen and in the Saskatchewan legislature while Brad Wall was premier. Upstream also noted. Oh, okay. Raised and still actively involved on his family's multi-generational farm near Consort, Alberta, Kirk brings a unique perspective on the needs of rural communities and industries vital to the prairie's economy, said the company, which has offices in Toronto and Regina. That might be the truest thing or actual selling point. I'm not sure how, in what capacity he was actively involved on his family multi-generational farm would bear a role on how unique his perspective is. Yeah. Okay. Oh boy. So yeah, he has landed very, very well, doing very well for himself. Now it would seem that when we're asking about the quid pro quo part, it's kind of no accident that Damien Kirk managed to land on a big pile of soft, cushy pillows at Upstring, because Upstring is owned by Michael Diamond. Now, who's Michael Diamond, you might ask? That's a damn good question, because I had no idea who he was either. But Michael Diamond is the former president of the Conservative Party of Canada Board of Directors. Or the former president of the Conservative Party of Canada. Let's put that. How convenient that he just happened to find a job all on his own, of course, based on his immense skills and talents acquired as a backbencher and the deep how do they call it again? What's the word? I love the way they framed it. I mean, listen, I'm a PR guy. I love good spin. Strategic value, yes, in portfolios where he was put in so that he would be invisible and not outshine the leader, because the leader was making all the CBC and environment policy and was very happy to be the face of those policies. Michael Diamond was also on the board of directors of AI ML Innovations, revolutionizing non-invasive medicine by leveraging AI, and also serves as the president of the Ontario PC Party. Huh. Interesting. And isn't there, a lot of people have also been asking the question, isn't there supposed to be like this 5-year rule there's supposed to be a 5-year cooling off period between the time you're an MP and between the time you are a designated public office holder, specifically, is the term. And the time that you go work for this type of consulting company as a principal, according to the rules in the Lobbying Act. Now, in this case, perhaps not, because designated public office holders are supposed to be senior government officials and decision makers. So, ministers and their staff, deputy ministers, associate deputy ministers, and other senior public servants in federal departments and agencies, certain senior officials in agencies, boards, or commissions as designated by regulation. But here, members of parliament and senators added as designated public office holders under amendments to the Lobbying Act. So here it would seem that when they talk about senior government officials and decision makers, you would think that would be all those people I mentioned before, but it would seem that members of parliament and senators are indeed, thanks to an amendment to the Lobbying Act, now qualify as designated public office holders and are considered senior government officials. Okay. Designated public office holders are required to report certain communications with lobbyists, which are recorded in the Federal Registry of Lobbyists to promote transparency, and they are subject to post-employment restrictions. After leaving their position, designated public office holders face a 5-year prohibition on lobbying activities to prevent conflicts of interest, as noted in posts on X discussing the federal lobbying system. Designated public office holders must adhere to ethical standards outlined in codes of conduct, such as those enforced by the Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. So, I'm not sure when they say principal if they mean he's going to be in the back room pushing some paper and creating reports, but will not actually interact with anyone. So, therefore, maybe cannot be considered as doing activities that qualify as lobbying. But it raises questions. How did a man like him with a background like his land in a job like that, which I would have to guess is a 6-figure job? And what will he be doing in that capacity? Also wondering whether or not his job starts now or whether his job starts on August 19th, because if the job starts now, he's not doing it because he's in Battle River Crowfoot knocking on doors, opening doors and introducing Pierre, which I'm pretty sure is not principal work that adds strategic value to the needs of Upstream's clients in Western Canada. So, depending on how this was done, this could be a tick, 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 tick time released issue that comes back to bite certain people. But it would be really, really, really nice, since Pierre was all about transparency and demanding that Mark Carney give so much of it, for the terms of this deal to be made very public, because there is potential for conflict of interest here. That's the whole reason this rule exists and why they must still comply. How did that saying go again? Must adhere to the ethical standards outlined in codes of conduct, such as those enforced by the Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. So, potential conflicts that could come and bite them. This is not setting up a table for a buffet of benevolence. Here, lots of things could happen. But yes, Couric, Damien, his first name, seems to have landed very, very, very well indeed. So when Bonnie Critchley says he sold us out, she might actually have a legit point here. And got this cartoon here from Jeff Coates, I believe it is. And it has Pierre putting his hand on Damien Couric's shoulder. And it's called Pierre's Job Creation Plan. Say, you see, I got fired from my job, so I'm going to need to have your job. Now, Damien Couric is out there trying to convince the world that he wasn't asked to do this. No. He wasn't asked in any way, shape, or form to do this. Nope, not at all. He's doing this all out of the goodness of his heart. You know, he saw the need, and you know, he's just a team player like that, and you know, would step aside. And of course, why wouldn't I for my leader? Because I think he's the guy. But that's a little too simple. That's a little too simple, a little too well packaged, a little too convenient. So yeah, not the best, not the best. Bonnie had a couple of other things to point out during her conversation with Ryan Jesperson. And this is one of the good moments here, because we've talked about Pierre's relative absence from Carleton, which is what contributed to getting him the boot. And here is pointing out that similar conditions exist in Battle River Crowfoot.
Yeah. In our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power, Gizmo says Bonnie would be a strong fighter for this riding, and she strikes me as a no BS kind of a person, shoots straight and speaks her mind. Plain Power, earmuffs, kids. You know, people say what they want on this show. So Plain Power says we need more people to be like Bonnie. Fuck parties and represent people. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's a party establishment. You got to work within parties, but I do think there can be room for independence. We're not going to pretend like it's easy for an independent to get elected. It must annoy you, and I'm about to heap on. I'm about to make it even worse.
Carry on.
Does it annoy you when people are talking about your candidacy? They're talking about this by-election, and every question or most of the questions are in the context of Pierre Poilièvre. Would you rather people just be talking about you? Like, I want to ask you about his presence in the riding through this campaign. The by-election coming up August 18th.
What presence?
Right, okay, well, let's go.
What presence?
Are there signs? Take me. I've not been in Battle River Crowfoot.
There's signs. His volunteers or Curic's volunteers are out there. But no, Monsieur Poilièvre himself is down in Calgary stomping for the Prime Minister's job. He doesn't have a seat. He assumes we're just going to give him ours. And that is a we, because I live there. But he is busy in Calgary pretending to be, he wants to run for Prime Minister. Well, no, buddy. Come talk to us first.
So you've...
Okay. Again, adding credence to the entitlement. It seems that yesterday, for some reason, according to a chatter that I'm seeing on Twitter, that Pierre was in British Columbia. That's a rather far way away from Battle River Crowfoot. I'm not sure what business he had in British Columbia to do yesterday. But again, Andrew Scheer is supposed to be existing for that purpose. To be going around and doing all the stuff that the leader of the opposition should be doing. Yes, he's the leader of the party. I get Pierre is. But right now he's candidate in Battle River Crowfoot. And it seems here, from what Bonnie Critchley is saying, is that it is Damien Couric and his volunteers that are campaigning for Pierre, but Pierre is not really doing much campaigning for himself. Okay. Not very, very, very present. Even in this race, even though his political career depends on it, his leadership review depends on him getting a big score in there. And he's working hard, but not at the things at which he should be, which seems to be like something that we've pointed out again. Working very hard, as Mr. Grizzly says. Poilièvre puts in the work. No doubt about that. Puts in the hours. He's just working at all the wrong things, it would seem. Last but not least, another moment here from Bonnie in this interview. This one is a bit of a longer stretch, but definitely worth our time here, where she is... It starts out with the fact that, by-elections are usually things that people don't pay, to which people don't pay a lot of attention. But maybe not the case this time around, given the fact that there is a national leader running for the seat. And also, it happens to be the only game in town at the moment. So, as Ryan would made the point the last time, it's sometimes hard for an independent candidate, but this, as we mentioned, is a very special set of circumstances. Same thing when it comes to the coverage that this campaign is getting. And let's see what Bonnie has to say about that.
I mean, I said it in my opening comments, but most people, to be quite honest, no disrespect, don't pay a lot of attention to by-elections unless a government's about to fall or unless there's a big high-profile riding at play. In this case, though, it's safe to say that people across Canada are watching to see what happens here and quite frankly, to see how the numbers play out. You get that sense? Oh, yeah, I get that sense. And as things go, people are watching Monsieur Poilièvre's numbers drop. So here we are, wondering if he beats me, excuse me, if he beats me, it won't be by much. Because I am telling you, I'm going door to door. And so many lifelong conservatives are saying, we are mad, we are upset. And I am an acceptable substitute for a conservative party member because my platform does run right of center. Most of my riding is not big C conservative. It's little c conservative. So if he beats me, it won't be by much. How is that going to play out in January? And if he loses that leadership review, is he going to stay as a backbencher MP in a backwater riding? Or is he going to quit and leave us doing this again in January? We had Max Fawcett on the show, most recent episode yesterday, lead columnist for Canada's National Observer. And we were talking about, we were kind of prognosticating on how this could play out. I never like to throw specific predictions out. Number one is this audience will tell you because I'm typically wrong. And number two, because I think it does a disservice to people like you, people that are working really hard to turn the tide and to earn the outcome that I know you feel like you deserve to earn. That said, it's not what I deserve. It's what we deserve. It's Battle River Crowfoot. This is what we deserve. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my neighbors and our community. I like that you said that. What was that? Our what? Our home, our riding. Our home, our riding. This is it's not a slick slogan. You weren't going for slick. I wasn't going for slick. I'm going for truth. Yeah, this is like somebody who mends her own fences, who throws her own bales around, right? Yes. Yeah. So Max and I are talking and basically saying, let's be honest, most people aren't expecting you to win here. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, crazier things have happened. Very rarely have crazier things happened, but let's just say that's fair. And so we're talking about how, you're swimming against the current. You got a long climb ahead of you. And then Max offers up this, and I want to get your response to it, okay? On the bigger picture potential of this by-election. So here's Max Fawcett in our most recent episode. Check it out. It's an uphill climb, to say the least. I don't think that Pierre Poilièvre is at any risk, and I want to respect the voters in that constituency, and obviously they can rally, and maybe crazier things have happened, although that would be one of the craziest all-time upsets in Canadian history. But Poilièvre's not at risk of losing that by-election, I don't think. But do you actually think that he could be at risk of seeing his tenure as Conservative leader end before the next federal election?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
And I don't think that. I mean, you're right. I think the odds of Bonnie Critchley actually beating him are
very slim,
very low, very slow. I think the odds of her ending his political career are much higher.
Really?
Because if let's just say he gets 55% of the vote or 60% of the vote, people are going to point out that is 20% less than a backbench MP who had to step aside for him. If he can't do better than Damien Couric in that riding, he is a loser. And that will be the frame that a lot of conservatives look at it through. So if Bonnie Critchley can, get a campaign where she gets 25% of the vote, that's ball game for Poilièvre, I think. The rumor, it's not going to happen right away, but the whispers are going to start. People are going to start organizing behind the scenes. and he's going to have a real problem on his hands.
That was Max Fawcett yesterday. Your thoughts?
Sorry, I had to giggle at Monsieur Poilièvre's death grip on that saddle horn in the Stampede parade. I got distracted. So he's right. He's absolutely right. Yes, victory for me is, well, victory for me, or eating enough of his numbers that he's done. It's that simple. But like I said, my fear there is that we're doing this again in January. And we're tired. Everybody is just so tired of this crap. We don't want to do this again. So it's, yeah, victory for me is A, actually winning, and being able to take a very powerful voice because of the minority government we're currently in. Battle River Crowfoot suddenly has an advantage, and we stop getting ignored. Or victory for me is taking a massive chunk out of his numbers. And that is not within the realm of possibility. That will happen. And that's what I'm hearing, door to door to door to door.
Boom. So Bonnie seems to be convinced that she is going to get a big enough share of the vote to at least end his political career. And she seems to be very confident that she actually does have more than an outsider's chance of winning. Very, very interesting. Well, kids and cubs, that is the end of our show today. I hope that you enjoyed listening to us because I particularly enjoyed making this one for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Share our content with a little word of yours with it because you are influencers in your own communities and in your own circles. If you would like not to miss an episode because you are on the go and just, making things happen, don't worry. We're portable, and thanks to the generous contribution of the Ray Girl, you can take us with you if you just scan this QR code that appeared on the screen, or if you're listening and go to podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. When you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And if you are listening to us on podcasts and can give us stars and reviews, please do, because that helps us with the algorithm. If you would like to help us in other ways, like, for example, surfing on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine would beckon you to smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Just give them a little tickle. It makes us very happy when you do, and that too helps us with the algorithm. If you would like to help us in yet other ways, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, internet fees, subscription fees, and all that kind of stuff, and you would like to help us cover those so that we can do more and bring you more of the information and perhaps entertainment as well on the side that you love, then please, a contribution to the emergency hydration fund here at the Beaver Lodge, if you want to do your bit to keep your beaver moist. Please, we would really appreciate that. Couple of coins when it hits the bottom of our tip jar makes us very happy. So treat your favorite beaver to a mug of hot chocolate, or your favorite grizzly to a cup of dark and bitter coffee. And that helps us. They're basically our staff so that we can write, produce, and deliver and market the show that you have come to enjoy. And we thank you so much for your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. Remember, there's time to sign the petition in Alberta to bring back the Alberta Progressive Conservative Party. If you believe that, if you are an Albertan and you believe that you deserve some real choice, you're tired of the two-party system, and Danielle is not doing it for you because the UCP is not governing in a way that represents the views of the majority of Albertans or the desires of the majority of Albertans, then you probably need to help MLAs Guthrie and Sinclair to revive the PC party. So at least you have options, even if you're not going to vote for them, at least so that you have options. They need about 9,000 signatures to do that, and you can do that and help them by going to mypcalberta.ca and giving your signature and your approval so that the party can be officially registered with Elections Alberta and be an option the next time that there is a provincial election. So please do that. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs, they are not going to come from me today, but from something I saw posted on the web here on Blue Sky, and this is something that I do myself, and I think could be of benefit. So this is from Laser Tag Wolf and says, "Walking helps your brain make sense of what you're going through. Walk after a fight. Walk when your mind is spinning. Walk when you need to remember who you are. Your body knows what to do. Just walk." So kids and cubs, go have a walk today. Do yourself some good. Just walk and let your brain take over. All right. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, please, at the count of 3, it's time for a little audience participation. If you can say, "Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock" on 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes. Oh, I thought there was a little country and western twang to that one. I must oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, a little bit of Canadians who make us proud for you here on the show. Olympic canoe champion Katie Vincent broke the world record in the women's individual 500 meters last Sunday at the national trials in Montreal. Vincent, who won gold in the individual 200 meters and took bronze in the doubles 500 meters last summer at the Olympics in Paris, clocked 2 minutes and 61 thousandths or 61 hundredths of a second to lower the 6-year-old record in the solo 500 by 12 100ths of a second. Tyler Mislawchuk reached the World Triathlon Cup podium for the first time in 3 years, taking silver in the men's race on Sunday in Morocco. The 3-time Olympian has won 7 World Cup medals in his career. Katie Clark finished 4th in the women's single sculls event at a World Rowing Cup stop in Switzerland on Sunday. It was Canada's best result at the 3-day regatta. Also, kids and cubs, at the Prefontaine Classic, Olympic and world champion from Canada, Cameron Rogers, broke her own national record to win the Classic. This is one of the premier track and field meets on the calendar. Rogers rockets a throw of 78.88 meters for the victory, which is a new Canadian and Diamond League record. For those who are not familiar, the Diamond League is an actual professional competitive track and field series of competitions where not only do the winners get cash prizes, but get points, and then at the end of the season get to compete in a big final for some rather big rewards. So I believe that Cameron Rogers was the only Canadian competitor at the Prefontaine Classic this time around. And not only did she win, but set a new record. So that's not too shabby at all. A new national record and a new Diamond League record as well. 78.88 meters for a throw. I wouldn't even want to attempt to throw that far. I would look terrible. Kits and Cubs, also, if you have the time, would really appreciate you taking a visit to our coffee page because I have a new editorial up there about the digital services tax and a little media literacy about being aware of something called wish casting. So if you go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, you'll be able to find the editorial there. All right, Kits and Cubs, that's all I got for you today. Amour et bisous. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully with Mr. Grizzly.